Hi, I am Freya Hart Pirate, and this is Star Wars: The Old Republic I'm playing on right now, and I'm with uh, the Power Chamber is our little group we have. I'm also a part of a couple other affiliated like Twitch stream groups right now, the Pizza Party and the Kennel Club. So they're helping expand and just some overall good people.
Good morning, YouTube, and welcome to another MMO Anthropology. I, of course, am your host, Amarist, and with me is Freya Hart Pirate, and we are in Star Wars: The Old Republic. And hello, it's nice to talk to you. So, can you give me some background on how you ended up with your character name?
The interesting thing is for this particular character, I was trying to go through like different characters that I like in books and movies and shows and stuff like that. And I couldn't remember where this name came from, but it just popped in my head and I was like, cause you're like typing names and this game has been around for so long and it's like, oh, that one's taken. Oh, that one's taken. And so this one just kind of popped into my mind, and I was like, maybe if I spell it uniquely, it will not be taken. And so I was like, oh, okay, Colleen is how I've pronounced it. And this is one of my favorite factions, or I'm not sure what they're called, but to play, which is the bounty hunting.
Mm-hmm. Is it your bounty hunter?
Yeah, this one is a bounty hunter. I've played a bunch of the other storylines. I should say I've started them, not like played fully, because my ADHD just tends to like go left field, and then I'm like, what if I just made another character? And Raps, who I collab with a lot, also has the same problem. So when we're talking about collabing together, he's always like, should we, which character do you want to play? And I'll list off a couple characters. He's like, or we could just make another one. So, and this game has that habit of just coming up with several different character slots. So like, I feel like most games you have like 4 saves, like in the beginning stages of a video game, I guess. You have like 2 or 3 saves, maybe 4 saves if you're lucky. And then now with, I think, a lot of MMOs, you have like, 12 character slots, or you can make 20 or 30 depending on like what you pay for it.
Would you say that Star Wars: The Old Republic is relatively friendly to your ability to make multiple characters?
I would definitely, especially because, like I said, it seems like you get good character creation options in Star Wars: The Old Republic. And then you can always buy more to make them more unique. So it is friendly on that regard, but it's not intimidating. For instance, when I played like Skyrim, which isn't an MMO, but is, an RPG game where you make your own character, I'm like sitting there for an hour and a half trying to like adjust each and every character feature, exactly the way I want it. Whereas Star Wars: The Old Republic is like, here's your options. Pick from those, which, kind of narrows it down and makes it easier to create another character who doesn't look like another character.
So, like, in like kind of like MMO parlance, we'd end up calling this kind of alcoholism, and you said that it was driven by your ADHD and the fact that you play with other people. Is that primarily what ends up like you throwing like more time into new characters? Is it social forces, or is it mostly internal?
I would say that it's mostly social. Like if I play with someone who who has a character or wants to start a new character, I don't have any problems switching up to a new character. But if I'm playing by myself, I'll try to just like pick one of the characters I have because my goal is to finally finish one of them, like the storyline. And I'm like, it bugs me that I'm like, oh, I don't have any that are finished. But I could say that, you know, it's like a 25% me and then 75% social, because I know that when I've played offline, as far as gaming goes, I do tend to just love the character creator portion of it and just making somebody brand new and starting out new. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to finish this one. And then sometimes that happens and sometimes it does not happen.
So one of the things that can give a little bit of benefit to multiple characters in SWTOR is the legacy, which is the name that
yes.
like kind of umbrellas all of your characters. And I think your legacy name is that visible on your character right now? Can you tell me a little bit about how you came to your legacy name?
Yes. So right now my legacy name is Thatcher. And I was going through my main character, and then I finally unlocked legacy name, which I hadn't been able to do for a while because I just hadn't played that often before I got back into it. But I was like, man, what's a good legacy name? And I could think, my mind was just like totally blank. And then I was thinking about, again, like I like to use a lot of character names from movies, TV shows, things that I've like related to. And I don't know why in that instance, but I started thinking about the movie A Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger. I love that movie. And it's a really good story of how, you know, kind of like your average Joe, or he was very poor, but he was a squire, and then who ends up becoming a knight, because obviously it's A Knight's Tale. But his birth name was Thatcher, and in the movie they make this big thing because he kind of has to pretend he's a noble, and like he has to go through all of these trials and stuff, and then people find out, oh, he's not actually, you know, of royal blood or whatever, so he can't be a knight. And then he does make that for himself. But his name was Thatcher, and I was like, that's such a unique name that stuck with me since I watched, you know, I think I first watched that when I was a teenager. And now I'm just like, it's just an icon of like coming from nothing and then making yourself into who you want to be in the future. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. You know, let's try that one. Yeah. So it worked out pretty good that it hadn't been taken, and I was like, oh, good.
So people viewing this interview might notice that we're kind of in like a little bit of a crowded area with like music playing and a band and a weird, I don't even know how to describe the thing that we're next to, but we're on kind of a casino planet called Nar Shaddaa.
Right.
I was wondering, why did you choose this particular location for this interview?
Okay, so funny story is, like, I haven't been to a whole lot of planets, number one, so I was like, I don't have a lot to compare to, but every time we come to Nar Shaddaa with one of my characters, or I come to Nar Shaddaa, it just, I love the colors of all of the, like next to us, like the flashing signs and stuff. I love the hologram trees here that they have, which represent like the great tree, and I think there's like a whole lore story behind it. And then the casinos. So I've actually lived in Las Vegas, Nevada I don't live there now, but like I lived there for probably 8 to 9 years. And so I'm very familiar with like casinos and lights and music and everything else, because when you live there, like what I would tell people when they would ask me is, I'm like, it's a great place to visit. It's really hard to like actually live there, which the circumstances around why I went to live there is the whole thing, but because you can't do anything, I feel like, or by do anything I mean like it's harder to find something social to do with like your friends if you live there without going inside a casino. And obviously casinos in the history of Las Vegas is what brought up the economy there in order for it to become like a thriving city in the middle of a desert. So they try to draw you in as much as possible, and that means all of the movie theaters out there. So if you want to go see a movie, even if you want to like take your kids and stuff like that, you have to go through the casinos. There's no movie theaters that are outside of a casino, which I always thought was an odd thing. And a lot of like the unique places to eat are kind of inside of a casino, and they've just kind of this thing where they're like, even the locals, they can get a discount on certain things but not everything, and it's like trying to draw people in, of course, to spend money on like the machines and continue to feed into the economy in that way. So I think it's just familiar for me, even though I haven't lived there for several years now, but I also really like the pretty lights and music.
Yeah, it is definitely a riot of colors and like an assault on the senses to a certain extent. But I mean, like, I like the kaleidoscope when I visit here every time. So now that we've covered a little bit of like where we are, what's your past MMO and video game playing experience? Like, what other MMOs have you played, and how would you compare them to Star Wars, The Old Republic?
So I feel like my first MMO experience was Guild Wars 2. Way back in the day. Several decades ago, I played it for the first time, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. It's like an open world. You can go to different places, you can make friends online, obviously, and just being able to experience that with a bigger crowd rather than like I don't know if they call it this, but just like couch sitting, playing video games together. So being able to connect to not only like different people in the world, but also being able to, connect to your friend who lives down the street who can't, come over because they're grounded or whatever. You don't have to like travel distances and like sit next to each other on a couch, but you can also like play together in a world online. So, and as the internet has progressed, I think it's only gotten better in that regard. Like, just as far as like the opportunity it lends to people now to play versus like, back in the day, it was so much about do you have like good internet speeds? Do you have the game that costs $20 to $50? Do you subscribe? Like, do you have the monthly pass? Or like Star Wars has their own version of it. But the one thing I loved was just like I said, finding people online to play with, like, and making friendships that way. Especially as like someone who, I don't know, I'm like a little bit of introverted, extroverted, but I tend to find like in online gaming, it's just an easier path to be able to like make friends as part of that like introverted part. And I think it gives a good opportunity for that as well. I cannot remember the last time I played Guild Wars 2. It was a long time ago, but I know that Guild Wars is still popular. I never got into World of Warcraft because I hate like spending a lot of money on things for myself. I don't know why, but it's like a thing where I have, I'm like, no, I'll buy things for other people and feel totally fine, but like buying something for myself, I'm like, that's $5, that's too much. So trying to play a MMO that was like you have to subscribe or you have to pay a monthly fee, I was like, I can't do that. Plus, I heard all of these stories from
Oh,
friends who were like, "Oh, I've spent thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands, or I've spent hundreds of dollars on the game," and I'm like, "How? You bought the game? Can't you just play it?" And they're like, "Well, there's a monthly fee, and then you can pay more to like do certain upgrades and all this other stuff." So,
well, speaking of like spending money on a game and stuff like that, I know that SWTOR has like a cosmetic shop and etc. Like, how do you, when you're making characters and you're putting together outfits and etc., like the one that you've made with like so many alts, how do you make decisions on how to like make outfits and stuff like that? Like as a free to play player, do you spend a lot of time on like your look, or do you try to throw together ensembles with whatever you have on hand?
yeah, so normally for me, because like I said, it's a pet peeve against myself, but like I have problems spending money on myself. So normally when I make a character, I'm just like, oh, I'll piece together whatever I have, and I'll just go from there. And if the shop, the cartel shop, has something that I'm like, ooh, I really, really like this, I'll normally like save up money, to the side every month and then like eventually buy it. But when it comes to like character creation, I just use whatever I have. And then that's that's kind of my thing. I know it's like it's hard to resist all of the cool shiny outfits they have, especially when it's characters that like you've seen in shows and stuff and you're like, ooh, I really like so and so's outfit. But yeah, I have no problem just being like, I'll just wear whatever. It's fine as long as it works and is practical. I've also had, like, with my streaming, I've had, people come in and play with me and be like, oh, I got you. I'm going to buy you an outfit. I'm like, okay. Like, that's super nice and it's super appreciated. But I never feel like it's, they have to do that. And I never feel like I have to spend money on an outfit for myself, even though I think they look really cool. I don't judge people who do it. Like, if that's what you like to do, good, great. I'm glad that that's, something that you really enjoy. And I don't know, that's been my perspective so far, is like I really enjoy that. You have that option to like, customize outside of like what the game gives you per se, for free. But just for me personally, I try not to do it that often, because I know how easy it can be to like, oh, let me just put 100 more coins in there so that I can buy this other thing, and then you have like all this stuff,
True.
time and money spent on it.
So, like, in order to gather your perspective, how long have you been playing Star Wars: The Old Republic, and now how often do you play it?
So I would say I started playing it back in 2020. When I had a little bit more, I would say, free time, just because with everything going on at during that year, I know a lot of people like lost their jobs and it was really hard. But me personally, at my day job, they did this thing where they're like, we're gonna have alternating weeks. So like, you're gonna work a week and then you're gonna be home for a week, and we're gonna pay you like, we're still gonna pay you to be home because you're still like a full-time employee, but it's only gonna be like a percentage of your normal pay. And luckily at the time, I wasn't taking a whole lot of vacation. So I had PTO saved up, and they told us we could use our PTO to supplement. So I would just have weeks where I was like at home and I didn't have to do anything, even though my job was work from home. So those weeks where I was like not working, I was still at home because of the lockdown and everything. So I was like, okay, what can I do? And then Raps is the one that introduced me to Star Wars: The Old Republic, and I was like, oh, it's free to play? I don't have to buy the game? Perfect. So I downloaded it, and I think I played for a little bit then, and then I kind of would jump in maybe like after all of the lockdown stopped and I had to go back to work. It was so busy because everything was opening back up and things like that. So I had like less time to play. So maybe like once or twice a year, I would try to like sit down and play for a little bit, but like usually like life stuff, family happens, and then just finding the time to sit down and play just never seemed reasonable. And then when I started streaming on Twitch, I was like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity. I have set times each week that I sit down and I take aside for myself to not only game but like stream as well. So that's kind of when I picked it back up in I would say like picked it back up to like actually play on a consistent basis in 2024. Yeah, back in 2024. So this year.
Okay. So, what would you say that you do like on a normal play session in SWTOR? Apparently I think it kicked you out for standing still for too long.
Yeah, I did. I stood still, but that's okay. I'm just gonna go back in.
That was really funny. You just kind of like disappeared into the ether. Yeah.
Yeah, that is one thing about this game I forgot that it does, is like if you stand still for too long, it will just kick you right off.
Yeah, that was all good. So what do you do during like a normal play session in SWTOR? Like, do you normally spend time by yourself, or do you seek out like other people to play with?
So before I even start playing, I would say I ask my friends and stuff if they would like to play. And then if everyone is busy, honestly, this is the character I always go back to because it's one of the very first characters that I created back in 2020 that I like put down and never picked it back up. And I was like, well, this is kind of my character. Yes, I can play with other people if they're like similar level or they're playing bounty hunters as well. But this is the character that I've tried to get like closer and closer to the end of the main story. So normally if I'm, if everyone is busy and I'm like, okay, just play a couple hours by myself, I'll pick up this character and I try to go for like the main plot missions. I've also really enjoyed playing like the star missions, so like where you're in a ship and you have to like destroy certain vehicles and stuff like that. I think that's a really fun part of this game in particular that they added, because I did not know. I was like, oh, other than like walking around the planets and doing missions and things like that, you also get to get in a spacecraft and fly it and like have space combat. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know that was going to be an option. So I really enjoy doing those as well, because I know that doesn't, it doesn't matter if you have like a bunch of people. Those ones are one person specific. So one person instance where you're going in by yourself and doing those space missions. But normally, yeah, I would say my focus has lately been on like just wanting to progress the story and get more of the story. Whether I've played the bounty hunter storyline, the Sith acolyte I have, or like the spy one that we were kind of chit-chatting about earlier. I really enjoyed the spy. It's not called the spy, is it? It's called the agent. Yeah the agent storyline is really fun too.
So, how would you say that you learned to play SWTOR? Like learning the mechanics and etc. Did you learn on your own? Did you look up like resources online, or did someone else teach you? Like, how did you learn to engage the game?
So I would say for the most part, I just had other people who were playing with me, and I would be like, hey, how do you do this? And they're like, oh, push this button. Or, hey, how do you do this? And they're like, oh, just push this button. So a lot of my learning was from other people. And even if it wasn't like like I said, my friends, someone that I um, met online or whatever. Everybody's been super helpful. I've only met good people off this game who really want to help out, which has been awesome. But yeah, I would say most of it was from other people. A little bit has been a learning curve. Like I said, I did play Guild Wars, so the game mechanics itself is kind of similar as far as like an MMO of you know, like pressing the keys for combat or leveling up your character or things like that. We're a little bit familiar, but there's definitely other things that I've had to pick up and learn, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to do certain things because I've not gotten that far, and I'm sure they will continue to update this game.
Yep.
As long as they have, which is great. I'm happy that there's a free to play MMO. Even though it's, like base level or whatever, that you can still engage in, and they're still updating it, so the servers are all still open even after all these years.
So MMOs in a sort of way are like a kind of entertainment. So I'm kind of like wondering how you use MMOs as entertainment differently than other kinds of entertainment. Like, how would you say that you approach MMOs as entertainment differently than maybe watching TV shows or movies or reading books?
It's definitely more interactive. So I will say, like, if I'm really tired at the end of the day, I would probably choose like watching a show or a movie because it's more passive. But then if I'm kind of feeling, more that I want to be interactive with whatever I'm choosing to relax with, especially an MMO where you've got like so many moving pieces to it, it's just, having to like log in and then choose your character and then wanting to advance that story. I think for me personally, that's what keeps me coming back, is like, oh, I want to learn more about, this or that in the Star Wars universe and the story that you have, which is kind of my go-to for any type of like RPG based game. It's always the story that keeps me coming back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know that you've already mentioned this to a certain extent, but I want to dive just a tiny little bit deeper into it, and that is, what would you say like the temperature of this MMO's community is like? So how do other people like behave, like random people that you've met?
I would say that everyone I have personally met has been nothing but helpful. And good. Although I do say that I will keep the like in-game chat that's for like the world. I usually keep that closed, because I'm playing with like other people, or I'm streaming, or even when I'm playing by myself. Most of the time I will keep that closed because it just tends to flood with like messages. And I know that one of the worlds, I think I've been there, but I can't remember the name of it, has, I've heard a bad habit of like everyone just coming into the chat and like cursing or like being mean. And it's almost like a trope now. Like you go to that specific planet and then like everybody just fills the chat with like hate. I don't even know, because like I keep it closed like 99.9% of the time. So I wouldn't have noticed it, but I have heard of it.
I think it's Drummond Koss, and it's that one in particular, I believe, has a reputation, and I don't really know why yet.
Yeah, like I said, since I keep the chat closed most of the time, I had never noticed it until I started playing with other people, and they were like, "Oh, it's Drummond Koss.
Yeah.
Make sure you have your chat closed." And I'm like, "What?"
Well, I think that it's for the same reason that one of the largest regions in World of Warcraft, which is had a really bad reputation, which was like the crossroads area of the wastelands had like a bad reputation, was because it was one of the first areas that everyone visited.
Oh, for sure.
And so there's a large number of people flooding through it, and of course one person says something off color, and then everyone else jumps on. And so you have a large number of people, you have a high likelihood that it's just going to devolve. So of course it gets a bad reputation. I haven't had a chance to study it yet, so I can't really speak to it, but I do know it has a poor reputation.
Right, yeah, and I've even been to that world on that server that tends to have a bad reputation, and from what you like visually see, it's fine. There's a lot of characters running around doing their own thing, but there's nothing like visually that you can notice that's like, other than there being a lot of people there. But if you open that chat box, it like floods full of stuff. So I would say open the chat box at your own risk.
Yeah. So do you have a guild or a community here that you play with regularly? I know that you've kind of mentioned some people.
Yes. So, and I'm trying to... I should have looked up stuff before I got here, because I don't even think this character is a part of it for some reason. That could be because, like I said, this is the character that I do a lot on my own. But I have 2 guilds that I'm a part of. One is like light side and one is like dark side. That I do play with. We used to do, like I said, at least 2 or 3 times a week playing SWTOR. Got really hyper focused on it and was playing a lot more with a lot more people. But now, at least for a while, summers are really busy for me. Time I'm here, so I don't tend to stream as much. But now that I'm getting back into like my regular scheduled streams, and I'm getting back into like playing more and streaming more, definitely be playing more with King of Trash Bandits and Bot-Tier Raps are 2 of like the people that I tend to collab with more. But like I said, I'm always open to playing with more people and just learning more experiences, because for me, learning from other people is like one of the passions that I have. So I know there's always something new I can learn, whether that's like about MMOs or anything in everyday life. I think we just all have different experiences, and that it just fascinates me to find out more about people in general.
Well, that's great. For my very last question, I always ask, what is your favorite memory or experience from playing an MMO?
Okay, this I don't know why this popped up in my mind, and it's ridiculous. And I have a clip of it on my phone, but I had one of my favorite experiences. Well, I guess, yeah, okay. It's gonna be this one, which is gonna seem totally off the wall, but when we were playing the agents, who are the Cathar, I think is the name. So there are spy cats with Bot-Tier Raps and Trash Bandit. We decided, for whatever random reason, we're gonna go to the where they have like the little ships that you can travel within the world, the speeder bikes. And we're gonna get on top of these speeder bikes because a lot of people use them, right? So you have to use them to like go to different places. And we're gonna be our cats, but we're gonna do the no bones dance, which is one of the funniest dances in this game that you can have your character do, in my opinion. It could be different in other people's. But, and they dressed up with like cowboy hats and like tiny shorts and just danced on top of these things to the no bones. It was, I don't know, we laughed for like probably an hour straight just doing that. And it's like one of the most off the wall things. It really has nothing to do with gameplay. It's just like, you could go do that. you can go anywhere in the world and you can have your character, sit down or you dance to the music in the game, or, change your outfit randomly and just do silly stuff on the side of like serious gameplay of like, ooh, I'm gonna level up my character, I'm gonna go through the story, like just being able to be silly like that, it's always like good memory for me.
Awesome. Well, that is everything. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes,
everyone,
thank you.
To everyone else listening, thank you so much for coming along to this MMO Anthropology interview. I, of course, have been your host, Amarist, and this is Freya Hart Pirate in Star Wars: The Old Republic. And everyone else listening, good night and good dreams.
Do you play online games? Do you have Discord? Then we'd love to interview you on Massive Online Anthropology. Join the fascinating multitudes who have spoken about their online gaming experience and be the envy of all your friends. Or at least get the MMO Anthropology Geek Merit Badge. Sorry, no t-shirt. See you then.